This bill protects children from harm by ending the use of unproven, experimental, and irreversible chemical and surgical procedures on children who appear to suffer from a condition called gender dysphoria. The number of children who complain of this condition has increased exponentially in the last few years, and it has resulted in an explosion of treatments, both surgical and chemical, which are equally damaging to children. And this bill will prohibit those procedures from being engaged in Louisiana.
You know, when we all got elected to the Senate, I guess you have those defining moments where you make those special votes, and everyone's vote here is precious. Doesn't matter what vote you make, and we made about 100 votes yesterday, and they basically probably went under the radar. But every once in a while, you make that one or two votes that's pivotal. So for me, I guess in my career, probably the most controversial vote between this one was when I voted for Medicaid expansion. It was basically, probably I was told it was the worst vote ever, and I'm proud of that vote. The other vote I made was for marijuana for people that just were in their last-ditch effort. Just their last-ditch effort. And I was told if I make that vote, I'll never win for an election again. Well, on May 24th, I didn't really think that, I just broke a tie. I just looked at a bill, I looked at the facts, I listened to 2 hours of debate, and I broke a tie. And I didn't realize this was a cultural war, and I didn't realize that there were so many sides to oppose this. But I just want to bring out some facts because I think it should be brought out. And you've made your mind up. I know how you'll vote, and this is not to make your mind up. But this, once again, I guess, is for the little family that just, it's just, I'll go through the information for you. There's a Medicaid report that was generated from last year, and the Medicaid report, I'll tell you what the facts are. The facts are, and I'll read it to you. The Louisiana Department of Health report on gender reassignment procedures on minors showed from 2017 to 2021, there were 0 surgical procedures performed on a minor. Now of that, that's 794,779 children. That's very indicative of the entire state of Louisiana. And of that, only 465 were diagnosed with gender dysphoria. And of those 465, only 57 were candidates for either hormone blockers or hormone replacement. Think about it. 57 families in a health crisis. 57 families. Also, it says in the report that, and in the testimony, I'll read it to you. In the behavioral health care section, at least 2 years and their parents must go through therapeutic evaluations before the child can even be considered for puberty blockers. Listen to that again. 2 years of extensive therapy, almost 800,000 children, 57 candidates in 2021. That was the data I was looking at. Now, we'll tell you in committee, there were several parents that talked about the surgeries. There were several parents that talked about certain things that were happening to their children. That's medical malpractice. That's medical malpractice. Now, in the testimony, what gave me major concern, and it's still in the bill, is it prevents a physician and a psychiatrist who are treating their children for a gender crisis of utilizing any FDA-approved drugs to treat their children. You're basically saying that it's an FDA-approved drug, that physician, that psychologist, 2 years of behavioral training, and you know what? Can't prescribe it. What's really troubling about this bill is basically it says that if you're presently stabilized or on this treatment, that you have to be weaned off. I have never seen legislation where we've taken people off of medication that's FDA approved. I've never seen it. But this is what's even more troubling if you look at the bill. If you look at page 2 of the bill, the first section, it's lines 4. And it says what a prohibitive act is the minor's perception of his sex. Who's going to regulate that? Who is going to regulate the minor's perception of their sex? In the exceptions on page 3, it says there's an exception for prescribing this if the child feels they're normal. Who's doing that? I've asked attorneys to just continue to look at this, and as they look at it, they say, I don't know what I'm reading. Now think of this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to change your mind on it, but it needs to be put into the record. Think of this. I'm a physician. I'm taking care of this patient. I feel my child is the child that I'm going is normal. We've had 2 years of extensive behavioral treatment, and I prescribe estrogen for an 8-year-old girl who's having a period. And if there's a preponderance of evidence that says they violated the exception provision, that doctor's license is revocated for 2 years. Not a suspension, not a probation, it's a revocation. I've never seen that before.
Senator Mills,
I need more time.
you're out of time. Senator Morris, would you give him another 5 minutes? And he will.
So I wanted to just tell you that's the provisions that really give me concern. So I guess I'll tell you, what can we all agree upon? What can we all agree upon? There is not one team of physicians, psychiatrists, anybody that says they agree that an 18-year-old, below 18 years, that you should have surgery, a surgical procedure. If you wanted to make this bill better, you could make it better by saying no surgeries on a minor. If there's prohibitions on prescribing, rules and regulations should be promulgated by the Board of Medical Examiners, which they do all the time. If you want an exception, those rules would be promulgated by the board, and it would give each and every one of you a chance to have an oversight committee hearing in those committees, but that's not what we're doing. So I guess I want to tell you this, and I'll leave it alone, and I'll go and sit down from here. I want to tell you this is probably one of the biggest blessings in my life, this controversy. I've been attacked nationwide by hate, but I don't hate those people. I do not hate those people. They're passionate about their issue, and you know what? I hope God blesses them because I have no hate for these people. But I will tell you, the people that contacted me throughout the United States, the families that have a health crisis, thanking me that maybe we prevented a suicide in committee, I want to let you all know I love you, and I hope things work out for you. But I want to let you know, and I'm going to, please give me this time, because when I went to my office Sunday, I was thinking, what can I say to everybody? What can I actually say? When I got to my office, my legislative assistant had put all of the letters of thanks on my desk. And it was this pile. So I figured, I'm going to let the public close. I'm going to let the people of Louisiana close, because as much hate email as I got, the love and the pouring of love, I cannot thank people enough for it. So if I can, I'm going to read 5 letters from people throughout the state of Louisiana, because all I kept hearing is, this is what my constituents want. Well, these are some constituents I think, as I said in my farewell speech, we should protect the little man. We should protect the little family. We should protect 57 children that are on therapy right now. So I'll just read it to you, and I'll tell you where they're from. The first letter's from Mandeville, St. Tammany Parish. Senator Hewitt, Senator McMath, Senator Mizell, this is one of y'all people. I'm writing to thank you for, and I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want them to get hate email. I don't want them to get harassed. So if you want to see it, I'll show it to you, but I'm not going to say these people's names. That's not fair. I'm writing to thank you for your vote on transgender health care. I have no one that I know of among my family or friends that needs this service. So I'm not writing for this reason. I'm writing to congratulate you for being a true conservative. Unlike so many pseudo-conservatives in government today, a true conservative will stay out of the personal lives of their constituents and let the experts decide the issues of health. Thank you again, and oh, by the way, please run for governor. No. The next one is from Ruston, Louisiana, Lincoln Parish. Senator Luno, Senator Morris, I want to read you this. This is from a psychologist. I am not in your district. but I'm aware of your vote in Health and Welfare Committee that you deferred 648. I'm a psychologist. I'm a graduate of Louisiana Tech University, and I treat trans patients. I am not being hyperbole when I tell you, I say your vote saved lives. I had patients burst into tears of release of the news of the deferment. If you ever receive backlash for this vote, give me a call, and I will give you the names of my patients who will not have died because of suicide. Just bear with me, I have a couple of more letters. This is from Grant Parish. Senator Bowie, Senator Carter, Senator Duplessis, Senator Harris, Senator Henry, Senator Hewitt. I'm writing to thank you for your vote in opposition of House Bill 648. Your vote was principled, reasonable, and compassionate. It was also courageous, and I'm grateful for your courage. Like many others, I try my best to evaluate political leaders and political issues with a sense of fairness and a spirit of broad civic commitment. I obviously have my own bias and my own beliefs, but I can recognize people in positions. Most importantly, I believe that demonizing those of whom we disagree with even fiercely is a corrosive act. Unfortunately, doing so seems to be the reflex at all levels of politics today, and I'm sorry that you're receiving this in. The issue of gender-affirming treatment does not affect me or my family. I'm certainly not an expert on the treatment or issues underlying the bill in which you voted, but as a matter of what I hope is a basic decency. I believe that those who are experiencing a momentous question of identity at a young age deserve to comfort that question and to explore its resolution in consultation with those of whom you know and trust. To categorically deprive them of safe and viable treatment strikes me as politically intrusive at best and personally cruel in practice. I'm thankful that you stuck your neck out.
Senator Mills, you're out of time. Senator Morris, will you allow him a little more?
2 more times.
Okay, give him another
This
5
is
minutes.
from one, thank you, Mr. President. This is, I will not say who this is because this will be just political hatred. This is from Calcasieu Parish, Lake Charles, a highly elected conservative, highly elected. I read an article about 648. I didn't read the bill, so I don't know how I personally would have felt about it. Although I do sometimes worry that conservatives go a bit overboard with trying to pass legislation that may not necessarily be conservative. The point of this letter is to compliment you for voting on your conscience and not simply being a robot and pushing a button because it is potentially expedient to do so. I have great respect for that, and I respect this. And this is my last one. This is from Lafayette, Karen Crow area. Senator Boudreaux, Senator Cortez, Senator Hinchkins. This one breaks my heart. Words cannot express how grateful I and my family are you voted yesterday for 648. I can only imagine how difficult it was in this hyper-partisan time to do what is right instead of what is easy. Your vote will sure save many lives. You've truly made a difference, and I want to commend you standing up for the citizens of Louisiana. So members, as I conclude, I want to thank both sides. I want to thank the people that have sent me hate emails. I want to thank the people that have basically told me I'm not worth a darn, but I'm not sorry for my vote. I want to ask them to leave my family alone. I want to ask them to leave my businesses alone. I want them to just, that's what I ran for office for. Give it to me, I don't care. But the hate of people that are good people because of this issue, it troubles me. So I'll just conclude on this last note. I stood here 2 Thursdays ago and I said, you know what? It's a privilege to fight for the little man. Those 57 families in 2021 that are stabilized on medication, they don't deserve to be taken off of it if that's what they want to do. A doctor does not need his license revoked if he or she's doing what's right, and to deny certain coverage if that's the last ditch effort and it's an FDA approved product, that's why I vote no. Thank you very much for your time and your patience. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. To the floor on the bill, Senator Luno.
When we open the Senate up each day in prayer, I always pray the same thing to God. I say, please give me the strength, the courage, and the wisdom to do your will. Now, that's my interpretation of what his will is, just like it's yours. But I can tell you one thing. I know that Fred Mills voted his convictions. I know that I voted my convictions. And I'll be honest with you, it was not an easy vote. It would have been much easier to vote the other way and not have the controversy. But I didn't think it was the right thing to do. I found it kind of amazing when I read some of the comments on social media, and I don't normally pay a lot of attention to that, but sometimes the veiled threats are too much to ignore, the vile things that people say, but so much more than that, the out and out lies that we hear. And I'll tell you one of those that give you an example. One of those said, Luno strikes again. He is part of the gender industry that allows kids in Louisiana to be mutilated every day. That's a lie. We haven't had a single gender reaffirmed surgery of a child in Louisiana in the last 5 years. And if there was one, do you not think we would have heard of it? But the evidence was a study that was conducted showed that there were none on Medicare. Now, there were a lot of accusations that they're in private pay or they're in private insurance. Not a single one that we had any proof of. But that's what we hear again and again. I want to talk about just a couple of things on the bill itself. This bill creates a standard of care in medicine. That's what doctors are supposed to do. For example, in medical malpractice cases that we all deal with the law on those every year, the doctors create the standard of care, not the legislature, not the lawyers, the doctors. But here, we're creating standard of care. And when we create that standard of care and we're telling these doctors how to treat the children, you know what else we do? We take the parents' rights away. Because in Louisiana, like most other states, the parents have the right to decide what treatment their children get. But we're not going to let them do that in this instance. We're going to take that power away from them. My conservative friends always tell me, we need to let this decision stay with the family. We debated all kind of vaccination bills after the pandemic. I heard that 1,000 times. This is a decision for the parents to make what's best for their children. But we're not going to let them make it here. But what are we going to do? We're going to put in vague language that deals with what doctors can and can't do, because the doctors already are saying, I don't understand it. And what my biggest fear is that a doctor who wants to provide psychotherapy for a child who is going through a difficult time with these issues could face having his license revoked for 2 years, because that's unclear in this legislation. And there could very well be attempts to say that that's what it means. And we say, you know what, we say that's not our legislative intent. Well, the courts have said you don't look just at legislative intent, you look at the actual words, and that's what we're looking at here is these words. So, what's the answer to this? The answer to me was to look at the experts who gave us testimony and told us about these issues. People that have recognized throughout the nation about having expertise in this. Let me name a few of them for you. American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, American Academy of Dermatology, American Academy of Family Physicians, American Academy of Nursing, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Physicians Assistants, College and Health Associates, College Nurse Midwives, Obstetrics and Gynecology, College of Physicians, American Heart Association, American Medical Association. The list goes on and on and on. Those are the experts in this field, and they say that this is the right kind of treatment. We need to quit smiling and jeering about these things and be serious about it and look at the issues and try to have the courage, the strength, and the wisdom to do the right thing.
To the floor on the bill, Senator Boudreaux.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, as we close out this 8th year, I've had the privilege of serving on health and welfare. You all know a little bit about my past, and while I served 8 years on health and welfare, the chairman has been Fred Mills. For 28 years, I officiated Division I college basketball, and you've heard the story. 5 national Final Fours. What a great privilege, how blessed I am. I put my Final Fours below serving on health and welfare with Fred Mills. See, when you work the national championship game, the question that I always had was, who would be my partners? Because it doesn't get done by one person. It's a team effort. So for those of you who do not know, it's 3 referees on the floor. So you worry about who those other 2 are that could mess it up. It might be you. One of the rules we have in health and welfare is we ask not to duplicate testimony. So while I didn't get a chance to talk to Senator Luno or Senator Mills as to what they would say, a lot that I wanted to say has already been said. So let me cut through the chase and say to you, just like in my officiating background, the 2 people I hope to be on the floor with me when I was in championship games, I'd pray that they have character, integrity, and they were strong leaders. We have that in our chairman. We have that in my friend. You know, the vote was 4-4. A 4-4 vote fails. Senator Mills didn't have to vote. He voted because he has character, integrity, and he's a leader. He voted because, as a pharmacist, with his background, he knew what the right thing was. Now, I have a stack of letters. One of them came from someone in my district, their entire family. When people, especially our youth, talk about suicide, see, that's not something that you take lightly. You wait too long, and you're at the funeral home. This is a difficult topic. I prayed on it. I knew this day of reckoning was coming. This man didn't deserve this. This is the Senate of the state of Louisiana. So I fall short when I try to get things done, and I ask God to guide me. So where do we leave this? This is the Senate. We understand the social aspects. We understand. I have a 2-page list. Senator Luno just started. You don't need to hear all of the medical organizations, associations that have approved gender affirming therapy, and it's medically proven when it's necessary to save a life. I'm going to ask, just like you all do from time to time, it's 3:15. We have till 6 o'clock before a 2/3 vote is come. Get permission from the president to have a meeting downstairs. Talk about this. The chairman has offered a set of amendments that would put this thing where you don't have winners and losers. He's already been attacked. And you can't take any of that away. But the Senate can send a strong message. And I want to send a message. If my vote gets me to stay home and not get reelected, so be it. I haven't run from a fight my entire life. When you're right, you're right. And you do the right thing. So we have less than 3 hours. Let's put some amendments on this thing and send it out to Senate the right way. I know it's easy. You put your head down and pretend it'll be over in a couple minutes. Y'all just go sit down. I don't care about getting reelected. I care about human dignity. I care about the chairman of this committee who has led us. I'm going to stop there, and I'd like you just to think about that. We can fix this. We don't have to go home and wish we could or should have. Let's fix it.
Senator Boudreaux, you're out of time.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mills, for being a man of character, integrity, and leadership.
Thank you. Senator.
These kids who feel a little bit outcast, instead of becoming goths and painting their hair green or something like that, are turning to this as a way to be accepted in a different world. Listen to him. He's a physician at Tavistock. It's the most well-known and well-regarded gender clinic probably in the world. Look at the article about Sweden I sent you. Look at the video from the gender clinic in Shreveport, Louisiana is saying, come to Louisiana, come to Shreveport. If you're in Texas, if you're in Alabama, come here. This bill is not out of hate. It's out of love. Forgive me. I ask for a favorable passage.
Senator Morris has moved final passage of House Bill 648. When the machines are open, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. And the Secretary will open the machines. 29 yeas and 10 nays, and the bill is finally passed.